Hey guys, Phil Baumhart here. So for today's video I'll be making a custom 8-inch chef knife out of a Farrier's rasp. So this is a rasp that I've already cut down. I'm sure I made a ski and do out of it, so there's still going to be plenty of material to make this out of. So 8-inch blade, and then I'm going to do a full tang, so the rest of this will be forged out into the tang of the knife. I probably will end up cutting this off, but we'll just leave it on there in case I want to hold on to it with the tongs or something like that. So from the sketches that I did, the customer is looking for something that's got it's a little more of like a Warncliffe style of chef knife. I don't know quite how to describe that, but the way I cut this off is already kind of a preform, so I think this will work out just fine. So what I'll need to do is hammer down all of these teeth. So I think I'm going to start with hammering out this blade side first. So it's going to curve upwards like that. I'll hammer down the back side, and I'll kind of bring it back down, and hopefully self-correct itself a bit. Then we'll go in, and once I have enough blade length, we'll go in and finish the tang. So let's get going. Started working on the spine, so you can see that I already started to take out some of that curve. I am going to need to bring this out into more of a taper right in here quite a bit more, but I want to make sure that this is our file teeth are flattened out a little bit more before I start getting into that, so we'll keep at it. So right now it's actually looking like a pretty good shape for a dirk, and that was my initial intention with this piece of steel, but you know, the chef knife came up and they liked the idea of the Farrier's rasp, just, you know, the pattern in the steel looks cool. So, but you know, there's not really too much difference between a dirk and a kitchen knife, only the thickness really. So kitchen knife, you want it to be nice and thin for slicing through food and all that. Okay, so kind of, so I got the center hot, and then I struck it farther up here over the anvil in an attempt to kind of correct the backward sweep that it was having, and so that did seem to work, so that's good. So then I'm going to go back to drawing out the blade a little bit more, and I'll probably go back, see about that taper. Okay, so we got our edge there, spine here. Been working on the edge mostly. I'm going to go back to the spine, starting to tip back up again, so we'll correct that out. I think I'm pretty happy with this blade shape, so I think I'll move on to the tang here shortly. I might revisit the point and dress that up just a little bit, but I think we're pretty much good to go. I'm trying to get that to drop down just a little bit more. I don't want that point to come up as much. I don't know if there's much I can do about that. We're going to try getting this part hot in here. I'm going to try that overhang strike technique again, and we'll see if that works. Okay, so I think that somewhat worked. I might try that again. Okay, well, I think that's a little closer to what I had drawn, a little closer to what I'm going for, so let's call it good on that. And let's switch over to making that tang. See what we can do there. Okay, so we're right about at the 8-inch mark right there, so that's good. So we'll keep drawing this out and get our proper width. Okay, so we're getting there. It's got kind of an interesting shape to it. If this was more of a camp knife, I'd be okay with it actually. But I want that, you know, I want that handle step down and recessed so that, you know, you can cut with it and you're not hitting your knuckles on your cutting board or what have you. So I'm still trying to maintain kind of a swell at the end of the tang here. I am going to cut down that bit there, so ignore that. So I don't want to just completely flatten this off. I like that swell in there, but we got to get rid of this kind of giant curve there. So that's what I'm working on. Okay, so I think I'm pretty much good to go on the handle. Just trying to draw it a little bit more right in there. I gotta go through and make sure it's all straight. I was starting to get some rain, so I'm gonna put the camera away, but the knife is pretty much good to go. I'm gonna I gotta go through and straighten it, and then I'll normalize it and anneal it. But none of that's very cinematic anyways, so we'll just cut ahead to grinding. Okay, well here's what the knife is looking like. I cleaned it up with a wire wheel. So overall, actually pretty happy with it. It's got a good feel. For a kitchen knife, I kind of wish I had just a little bit more material to work with here. I didn't want to make it too thin. I wanted a good handle to hang on to, so I can just kind of barely hit my knuckles when I try to go all the way down. You still, in a sideways grip, I think it would work just fine. Yeah, like I'm not hitting my knuckles here, so I think that'll work good. So I am gonna grind in here a bit. We'll cut this down, clean that all up, put in some basic edge bevels. I still want to leave, I don't want to do a full flat grind on here because we still want to see our little, teeth marks and stuff like that, our file teeth in there. But obviously, being a chef knife, we want it to be a good slicer, so we'll have a pretty high grind, but pretty happy with it. Okay, so I took the knife grind to 80 grit. It's looking pretty good. Got some walnut that I'm going to use for the handle. I've got a pattern that I made. Let me see. There we go. Got a pattern that I made, traced it onto the walnut. So we'll go ahead and cut these out right now. Then we'll drill these holes out. Alright, so we got the tang drilled out. Now for the wood, I can line that up with my tracing, bring that down. That lines up with that properly, so that should be good to go there. Okay, so we got the center hole lined up. We'll drill that out. So with the 2 pins in there, that'll be just about locked into place. Alright, so that's one down, one to go. Okay, here's how the knife is looking. Handles are still pretty thick. I'm going to contour these corners here pretty severely. So I've got my temporary kind of pins in here, so I'm going to replace these with the brass pins, and those will get kind of ground down as I go. But So I used the contact wheel to kind of put some shape into the handle here, and then I sanded it all smooth. So that was just a 60 grit. So I'll go through, you know, when I'm finished with this, and you know, we'll go through with the real fine sandpaper. But I like that. It feels good and in a hammer grip, which you know, you're not going to be using for the kitchen. So the kind of sideways pinch grip like this works good for that, and it's kind of a saver grip. It fits all those real well. So overall, really happy with the way this one is turning out. So one thing that did happen when I was doing the handle pins, it actually slipped off the drill press and landed, of course, right on the point. So and that screwed that up pretty good. Did a number on that. Let's see if I can show you. It just rolled over because I had it so thin, which I thought would be good for, you know, it being a kitchen knife and all that. But clearly it was a detriment because that thing just rolled over. Yeah, look at that. So that's a bummer. I gotta fix that. But overall, still happy with this knife. But that made me sad. Okay, well, the quench was successful. I actually did it twice because of how thin I ground this thing. It took on a bit of a warp, that first one. So for the second one, I straightened it out in the vise right after quenching. So I'm trying to leave that black finish on there. So we're going to go ahead and temper it in the oven right now, and hopefully that'll get baked down there. And it is still pretty thin right here, and realize how thin I did end up cutting myself. So okay, so I got the blade tempered. And I went over just the handle portion with the wire wheel just to try to clean off some of the tallow and you know, fire scale that was on there, just to really make that clean. I'm leaving the rest of the blade black because that's, you know, what the customer wants. And so we're ready to glue our handles on here. And I did some drilled out some little divots here just to give the glue more of a place to fill in and adhere to. And I'm using this Gorilla 2-part epoxy with a hardener and a resin because it dries kind of a dark kind of greenish black, but more of a matte black, which I think will blend in with the knife scales and the black finish on the blade really well. And it's got a pretty high strength, a little bit higher than the clear stuff. So, you know, not that a kitchen knife needs to be super, you know, strong. But I like using it. It's good stuff, so this is what I'm going with on here. So just mix that up, and we'll get some dollops in all these little holes here. And so when I squeeze this together, I fully expect it to squeeze out. So when I took the handles apart, these two pins kind of were left there, which was good because with the contoured handle, you know, the pins are going to have a slight contour to them. So with these two already in their original place, it should be a little bit easier to get everything to match up right. So I got a little glue on the outside of the handle there, not a big deal. We'll just wipe that off. I am going to go back in and kind of like re-sand all of this, so I'm not too worried about it. The one place I really don't want to get glue is going to be the actual blade of the knife. So yeah, so it's trying to fight its way through this glue on this other side. My hammer here. And use some leather here to keep from damaging my wood. Just gonna squeeze it on there. All right, well, here's what it's looking like after the epoxy. A little bit of a mess, but we'll clean that up. So first thing I'm going to address here is this one pin that's sticking up, and I had the handle split in there a bit, so we'll grind that down first. So I took it down to a 400 grit sandpaper. So handle's back to being nice and smooth, so we'll go ahead and put a coat of stain on here. So I usually do the blade first and then stain the handle, but on this one, I'm trying it the other way around. I figured it'd be easier to sand the handle when this thing was dull. Okay, so here's what our handles are looking like. Got a 220 grit belt, so we'll go in there and basically just clean this up. Probably go through and put the final edge on there. I'm going to wear some gloves so I don't mess up the handle, because I do plan on putting more stain on there. Okay, so I'm almost done with the knife here, but as you may have already noticed, right here, it kind of dips down right there and then comes back up, which normally on a fighting knife is not that bad, because you strike something and it'll, that recurve kind of shape creates an accelerated cut. Now for a chef knife, that's really no good, because the cutting edge here, especially in this critical area, has got to be flush with the cutting board. So I got to try to fix that, and I think that the grinder is just too aggressive at removing material. So I'm going to try using my file and see if I can fix that. So one last thing I'm going to do here is just add some brass tacking decoration to the handle, kind of like some of my skiing doos that I do. So now I'm going to put a coat of Krylon on the handle here, just to try to help keep it waterproof. Since this is going to be a kitchen knife, I'm sure it will be washed numerous times or be used with wet hands or just the oils from the different food and all that. And especially with the brass pins in there, it just kind of sort of gives egress points for moisture. So I just want to try to seal all that stuff off and make the handle as durable as possible. So just a real light coat. Alright, here's what the finished knife looks like. Overall, really happy with the way this one turned out. I think it looks awesome. The customer was, again, looking for the brass tacks on there, and they wanted it to be made out of the Farrier's rasp and all that. So, Farrier's rasp is not, premium knife steel by any means. You can't make a knife out of it. nothing wrong with that. For the most part, it's really just aesthetics. It looks cool. Don't do too many full tang knives, so it was nice to go ahead and do that. So, and I'm trying now to do more three-dimensional handles since I've got the, I'm using the contact wheel on the grinder instead of just carving everything by hand. So it feels really nice in the hand. This is a real comfortable knife. In hindsight, I wish I had done more of a step down here. Give your knuckles more room. It does work. From doing the test cutting, especially in kind of the pinch grip, I think is what that is. Kind of the French chef pinch grip like this. You have your thumb and finger like that, and the other fingers are just sort of there. That seemed to work for that. You could definitely do that. But this kitchen knife was really more of a challenge than I thought it was going to be, because you think, all right, 8 inches, whatever drop point, not a big deal. But it's got to be thin enough to go through food. A good food prep knife is real thin. That the indent there, and then also this has got to be. You really want this straight, I think. So kind of learning experience for me. I'm not a chef. I don't really cook. I just sort of keep the food I eat from killing me. That's kind of the extent of my cooking. So this is a good challenge for me. And unlike some of the Bowie knives and different kind of more weapon type knives that I make, those are things that people really aren't going to use. Let's be honest. They're nice to look at, maybe do some test cutting, but you're not going to be getting in knife fights every day. This is something that someone's going to use every single day. So it really just sort of held me to a higher standard, and I learned a lot from this knife build. So when you watch the video, it might not look like anything special, but to me this was an important learning process for me. So came out nice and sharp. I was able to achieve that. It might have been better to make this a little bit thinner. This is pretty stout for a kitchen knife, but it works. I mean, with the brass and all that, this is sort of meant to be, from my understanding, the customer travels a lot, so this is kind of a travel chef's knife. So it's okay that it's a little bit more robust. And so with that belly there, you can't do the real fast pivot chopping. I don't know what that's called. The belly does it. For doing a freehand slice or something like that, that belly works better for that type of cutting. So usually I don't mind that, but just the way that my grinder is set up with that slack belt, I think that's why I was getting that. So I'm gonna have to look into that, see if I can remedy that on other knives. But this one, I had to leave it as it is, because if we get it too thin, now we just got a real long paring knife, and that's no good. So I needed the width, and I didn't want to destroy everything I'd already done. So it's going to be what it is. With the notion of it being a travel chef's knife, I put together a little leather scabbard, no belt loop or anything, but a little retention thumb snap. So if it's in a pack or a bag, you don't run the risk of the knife slipping out and cutting yourself when you go in to grab something else. Put some acrylic resin on there, give it a nice sheen. So overall, real nice package. Really reminds me of a trade knife with the brass on there and everything. But yeah, overall, happy with the way this one came out. A lot of important lessons. Really kind of a humbling experience. So still pretty happy with the way this one came out. So appreciate you guys coming along with me on this journey. So as always, thanks so much for the support. Thanks for watching. And until next time, be more Viking.